Save her! Please! Ebuka cried, hands trembling. Zara leaned in, eyes cold. I will, she whispered, holding the money. But only if you walk away from your wife. Forever. Welcome to Tales by Steph, a home of interesting African stories. Ebuka and Amarachi were inseparable, young, deeply in love, and holding on to each other through poverty and struggle. With nothing but dreams and devotion, they believed love was enough. But life would soon test their bond in ways they never imagined. Love had always been their currency. Not money, not luxury, just love. They didn't have a fancy house, not even a mattress big enough for the two of them to stretch out fully. But when Ebuka came home from his welding workshop, drenched in sweat and smelling of iron, Amarachi would still rush to the door like a girl meeting her teenage crush. She'd wrap her arms around him, laugh against his chest, and say, "You didn't leave me behind today. That's all I need." Ebuka would kiss her forehead and whisper, "I'll build you a castle one day. Just wait for me." Their room was barely a room. Zinc roofing held down with stones, walls made of patched plywood. A kerosene lantern sat in a corner, flickering its dim light over old wedding pictures hanging on string. Life was hard, but their laughter made it bearable. They were inseparable. "Tomorrow I will leave for work very early," Ebuka said. "The big welding job at Lekki is tomorrow. No problem, my love, I will wake up early to prepare your food," Amarachi said. The next day came. Ebuka was rushing to the roadside to catch his bus, and Amarachi was packing bean cakes into a nylon bag for him. "Here is your lunch, my love." "Oh, thank you." "I'm late, my love," he replied, planting a quick kiss on her cheek. "Then may your hands never know failure," she said, placing the bag in his hand. "And don't forget, we're pregnant." He paused, smiled, then rubbed her belly lovingly. "I could never forget," he said. "You're carrying my entire world." At the construction site, things moved fast. Ebuka, lean and skilled, caught the attention of supervisors. But someone else was watching too, a sleek Lexus that pulled up every afternoon with a woman in dark glasses and a fragrance so strong it lingered even after she left. Her name was Zara. Zara Chukwuma was the kind of woman who walked into a room and turned heads without trying. She had returned from the UK just 6 months earlier after completing her master's in structural engineering. Her father, Chief Chukwuma, owned one of the largest construction firms in Lagos, and though he had plenty of male supervisors, he insisted Zara take over one of the major projects to learn from the ground up. What he didn't know was that Zara wasn't there to learn. She was there to dominate. Zara was used to power. She grew up in wealth, raised by nannies and tutors. Her mother, too, caught up in social circles to bother with hugs. From a young age, Zara learned to use what she had, beauty, brains, and boldness, to get what she wanted. And that day at the Lekki construction site, what she wanted was a man named Ebuka. It started innocently enough. She noticed him because he never noticed her. While others stared, smiled, or tried to greet her, Ebuka kept to his work like she didn't exist. That annoyed her and intrigued her even more. One evening, as he walked past her SUV, she rolled down the tinted glass and said with a smile, "Don't you greet supervisors where you come from?" Ebuka paused, wiped the sweat from his brow, and muttered, "Good afternoon, Ma," then walked on. That was the moment Zara decided. Not only would she have his attention, she would have him. She didn't care that he wore a cheap ring or that someone whispered he was married. To Zara, everything and everyone had a price, and she was willing to pay whatever it took to win the game. That evening, Ebuka returned home unusually quiet. The small room he shared with Amarachi smelled of freshly cooked okra soup, but he barely touched the bowl she placed before him. She watched him carefully as he undressed, his shoulders tense, eyes distant. "Ebuka," she called softly. "What is it? You've been quiet since you came in." He sighed deeply and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bare floor. Something happened at the site today. Amarachi's heart skipped. Are you okay? Were you hurt? No, nothing like that, he replied quickly, rubbing his palms together. There's this woman. Her name is Zara. She's the daughter of the company owner. Amarachi leaned against the wall, listening. She's been showing up almost every day, giving people gifts, talking to the workers. Today she spoke to me. Amarachi raised her brows. Spoke to you? About what? She asked why I never greeted her, said I was ignoring her. I told her good afternoon and walked away, but the way she looked at me, Amarachi, it didn't feel right. There's something about her, like she's used to getting what she wants. Amarachi's eyes softened. Did she say anything else? He hesitated. Not really, but the way she watches me, the way she acts, it's like a game to her. I just thought I should tell you. I didn't want to hide it. Amarachi moved to sit beside him, placing a hand on his knee. You did the right thing telling me, but Ebuka, look at me. He turned to her. You are not a toy for rich people to play with. I don't care how powerful she is. You are my husband, and we may not have much, but we have love. That's our wealth. Ebuka swallowed hard, guilt creeping in despite having done nothing wrong. Yet. I know, he whispered. I feel something shifting. I don't know what it is, but I needed you to know. She rested her head on his shoulder. Then we pray, and we stay close. Because whatever this woman is planning, love has to be stronger than it. He nodded slowly, wrapping his arm around her. But deep down, something inside him already felt unsettled. The sun was fierce that afternoon at the site. Welders wiped sweat from their brows, the clang of metal echoing in the air. Ebuka was in his corner, focused as always, when the familiar black SUV pulled up. The moment he saw it, his heart tightened. Zara stepped out in designer sunglasses, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete. She carried 2 packs of steaming jollof rice and grilled chicken, wrapped neatly in a nylon bag. All eyes were on her, but she walked straight to Ebuka. Good afternoon, she said with a bright, confident smile. I brought lunch. Ebuka stood up slowly, wiping his oily hands on a rag. Thank you, Ma, he said politely. But my wife already packed food for me. Zara blinked. Your wife? He nodded, holding up the tied black nylon containing rice and beans. Yes, she makes sure I don't go hungry. Zara tilted her head, her smile fading just a little. You're married? Yes, Ma. She folded her arms, lips pursed. And let me guess. Happily? Ebuka nodded without hesitation. Very. My wife is pregnant. We're expecting our first child. For a brief moment, something flashed in Zara's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or challenge. Well, congratulations, she said slowly, her tone laced with sarcasm. You don't look like a man with much, but you have love, I suppose. Ebuka offered a faint smile. That's all we need. Zara chuckled and placed the untouched food on a nearby bench. Maybe you'll change your mind someday. Just know, this world doesn't reward loyalty. It rewards those who know how to rise. She turned and walked away without another word, her heels striking the ground like warning shots. Ebuka stood frozen, unsure what he felt, relief, pride, or unease. Around him, the other workers stared silently, then returned to their tasks, muttering amongst themselves. As he sat down again, opening the food his wife had lovingly packed, his thoughts drifted to Amarachi, her tired feet, her gentle hands, her unwavering support. He smiled to himself, but behind his calm, a quiet question had started to whisper. How long before Zara returns? And what would she offer next? The next day, Zara didn't come with food. She came with an offer. She waited until break time, then handed Ebuka a white envelope stuffed with cash. "Just a gift," she said smoothly. "No strings, unless you want some." Ebuka stared at the money, heart pounding. "I told you, I'm married." Zara leaned closer, her perfume thick in the air. "And I told you, I always get what I want." He refused the envelope, but his hands trembled. That night, he didn't tell Amarachi. He couldn't. Not because he had done something wrong, but because he was afraid he might want to. It began just before dawn. Amarachi jolted awake with a sharp cry, clutching her belly. "Ebuka!" she gasped, breath ragged. "It's time!" He leapt from the mattress, panicked, half-dressed, grabbing her wrapper and his phone. The tiny room was spinning. This was it. She was due. Minutes later, they were rushing through the quiet streets on a KJ, Amarachi groaning in pain, Ebuka shouting at the driver to hurry. The hospital wasn't far, but it felt like an eternity. By the time they reached the reception, she could barely stand. The doctor examined her, his face serious. "She can't push," he said. "Her pelvis is too narrow. We need to perform a C-section immediately." Ebuka's chest tightened. "Then do it, please." The doctor nodded. "We'll begin, but you need to deposit 150,000 naira first." Ebuka emptied his pocket. 50,000 naira he had been saving for baby clothes. The doctor accepted it and said, "We'll prepare her, but the balance must come quickly." Ebuka turned to Amarachi, whose face was pale with pain. "I'll be back, I promise," he whispered, kissing her forehead. He ran. His feet hit the site gravel like thunder. Everyone turned when they saw him sprinting in, drenched in sweat. And then he saw it, Zara's black SUV under the mango tree. She stepped out slowly, dressed in a rich green jumpsuit, calm as ever. "Zara, please." He fell to his knees. "My wife is in labor. The doctor says she needs a C-section. I deposited part of the money, but I don't have the rest. I need help. I'll pay you back." Zara tilted her head, almost amused. "Now you remember me? I'm begging you. My child, my wife, they could die." Zara walked closer, eyes locked on his. "I'll give you the money," she said, handing him a thick envelope. "But only if you agree to one thing." Ebuka's breath hitched. "What?" "After the surgery, you walk away. From her. From that life. Be mine, no looking back." He stared at her, torn between the woman in pain at the hospital and the lifeline in his hands. And then, slowly, he nodded. Zara smiled. "Good boy." Ebuka rushed back to the hospital, hands shaking as he handed the balance to the doctor. They wheeled Amarachi into surgery while he paced the corridor, guilt gnawing at him. After what felt like hours, the doctor emerged. "Congratulations," he said. "It's a baby girl. Both mother and child are safe." Ebuka collapsed onto the bench, tears streaming down his face, not just from relief, but from shame. He walked into the room and saw Amarachi holding their newborn, smiling weakly. "She looks like you," she whispered. Ebuka forced a smile, but inside, his heart was breaking from the secret he carried. Amarachi was discharged 3 days later, and Ebuka brought them home. She noticed he was distant, quieter, distracted, but assumed it was exhaustion. Meanwhile, Zara kept calling, reminding him of their deal. "You made a promise," she said coldly. One evening, as Amarachi breastfed their baby, Amarachi watched as Ebuka quietly zipped up a small bag. Her heart sank, but she said nothing. She was cradling their baby, her body still sore from the surgery, her eyes heavy with sleepless nights. "I need to go sort something," he said, avoiding her gaze. She nodded slowly. "Okay, just don't stay too long." She wanted to ask where, why, with who, but her lips trembled instead. She trusted him, loved him, believed in him. As he kissed their daughter's forehead and walked out, Amarachi stared at the door long after it closed, a silent tear slipping down her cheek. Outside, Zara's car waited, engine running, headlights cutting through the dark. Ebuka moved into Zara's guest house, a sleek, cold space filled with luxury but empty of peace. She gave him everything: designer clothes, a new phone, even a brand new car. But at night, he lay awake, haunted by Amarachi's face and the cries of his newborn daughter. Zara was possessive, controlling his time, his choices, even how he spoke. "You belong to me now," she would whisper. Days turned to weeks. He stopped calling home. Amarachi, confused and heartbroken, tried reaching him, but his line never connected. She stared at their baby and whispered, "Your daddy is coming back." But even she doubted it. Days passed, and Ebuka didn't return. Amarachi called, but his phone was always off. At first, she told herself he was busy, maybe hustling to provide for them. But by the 5th day, her heart began to crack. Neighbors asked where he was. She forced a smile. "He'll be back soon." At night, she stared at the ceiling, their baby asleep beside her, the silence louder than ever. Meanwhile, in Zara's mansion, Ebuka sat by the window, drowning in guilt. Zara laid beside him, possessive and smug. "You chose this," she whispered, but in his chest it didn't feel like winning. Amarachi eventually stopped calling, her pride wounded, her heart exhausted. She focused on her baby, pouring all her strength into late-night feedings and struggling with her small food business. Word spread in whispers. Ebuka left with one rich woman. Some pitied her, others mocked, but she held her head high. Meanwhile, Zara began to change. What once felt like comfort became control. She dictated where Ebuka went, who he spoke to, even when he could call his family. One evening, he picked up his phone to dial Amarachi, but Zara snatched it. "She's your past. I'm your future," she snapped. He said nothing. Weeks turned into months. Amarachi, though wounded, began to rebuild, slowly. She expanded her Akara business, balancing motherhood and survival. Her baby girl, Chiamaka, grew healthier each day, her smiles reminding Amarachi that life must go on. Meanwhile, Ebuka sat in silence more than he spoke. The wealth Zara offered now felt like chains. One afternoon, he secretly visited his old neighborhood, hoping to catch a glimpse from afar. From across the road, he saw Amarachi laughing gently as she fed Chiamaka outside their small house. The sight broke him. For the first time, he realized he didn't leave poverty. He left home. Ebuka stood frozen, hidden behind a wall, watching the life he abandoned. Amarachi looked tired but peaceful, her love for Chiamaka radiating in every gesture. Guilt clawed at him. This was the family he swore to protect. That night, he returned to Zara's mansion, quiet and distant. She noticed. "Where were you?" she demanded. "I went out," he replied curtly. "Don't play games with me, Ebuka," she snapped. But he didn't answer. Later, while she slept, he packed his things silently. No car, no money, just regret and resolve. As dawn approached, Ebuka began the long walk back, not to beg, but to rebuild. Ebuka arrived at Amarachi's door just as the sun rose, dusty, tired, and unsure of his welcome. He knocked softly. Amarachi opened it, baby Chiamaka in her arms. Their eyes met, years of love, betrayal, and pain passing in silence. "I have no excuse," he said, voice low, "but I want to be a father. I want to make things right." Amarachi stared at him, tears welling. "You left us when we needed you most," she whispered. He dropped to his knees. "Please, let me earn a second chance." She didn't speak, but this time, she didn't close the door either. Zara was furious when Ebuka disappeared. She called endlessly, sent drivers, even stormed the old neighborhood. But he was gone. At first, she masked her anger with pride, convincing herself he'd return. But as days passed and he stayed away, rage consumed her. She had never been rejected before. Gossip spread in her circles. The welder left her for his poor wife. Humiliated, Zara fired 3 of her staff and spiraled into bitterness. Alone in her mansion, surrounded by luxury but void of love, she realized too late. Money could buy comfort, but not loyalty, and certainly not a man's heart. Amarachi stepped aside, allowing Ebuka in without a word. He entered the small room that once held their dreams, now filled with baby clothes and quiet resilience. He sat on the floor, watching Chiamaka sleep, tears streaming down his cheeks. Days turned to weeks. He helped with chores, fetched water, and supported Amarachi's business. She remained guarded, speaking little beyond what was necessary. One evening, as he rocked Chiamaka to sleep, Amarachi whispered, "Trust takes time." Ebuka nodded, understanding. He had broken something sacred, but now, step by step, he was determined to rebuild it. Not with promises, but with presence. Months passed, and slowly, Ebuka proved himself, not through grand gestures, but in daily sacrifice. He woke early to hawk sachet water, while Amarachi fried akara she carried Chiamaka on her back and rebuilt the broken roof with his bare hands. He never asked for forgiveness. He simply earned it. One evening, as they sat outside watching Chiamaka chase after a butterfly, Amarachi quietly slipped her hand into his. He looked at her surprised. She smiled faintly. "We may have lost our way, but we found our way back." Years later, their small home became a thriving food shop. Together, side by side, they built not just a business, but a new beginning. And this time, love was enough. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment.